So we want to take on some bottle lambs. Talk about feeding them. We started off with them as kind of like my other half wanted them because they were super cute, and we had a family friend that had lambs or had sheep, and they went into lambing, and they had some, and it's one of those things we ended up with a good deal on them, and never knew anything about it, and so this will be our second spring going into it doing bottle lambs, and having really good success with the advice we got in our first season. I'm gonna pass that forward. So Google says that running cow's milk isn't a suitable replacement. But I've had two different kind of old school farmers that have raised sheep say that they just use cow's milk. I've got a close friend that actually did a lot of sheep. He had a bunch of St. Croix, and he had never done cow's milk. He always bought milk replacer, and he always kind of discouraged me from doing bottle lambs, but we did it anyways because it was something that both my other half and my kids wanted to do. So, but when we got the first ones they were on 3.25% homogenized milk, right? Just the high fat milk, right? And it made sense. I mean, and they did good on it. And listening to his advice at first, and we continued on with it. We weaned at probably anywhere between 5 and 6 weeks. Basically, as soon as we saw they were eating hay on a regular basis, and that's what he said. He kind of put us in that direction. And I personally don't think that was the best advice in the world, but it's also, I get it. And we did what we did, and I'm not upset about it. They've lived very healthy lives. They're just smaller than everybody else. I started experimenting a little bit with what I was going to do, and I wanted to figure out a way to get a little bit more fat into the milk, see if that was going to help out at all. And this last lamb I weaned him out at between 10 and 11 weeks, which is about par for what they should be weaned out or what they're normally weaned out. Sometimes they just keep on sucking until mom goes into heat again and kicks them off. But running them that long, this last lamb I did was in way better shape than, the size he put on was fantastic compared to the other ones that we had done previous. And we had done 4 of them previously. And so we recently picked up this other guy, and we picked him up, and he was pretty small, and he was on milk replacer before we got him. But we weren't going to go to a milk replacer. We were going to continue with the regimen we've been doing. Now, so you can do the 3.25% stuff or the 3% stuff, and it works great. You do yourself, we start off with these normal, baby bottles, and what are they, 10 ounces, right? Or, what is this in mils? The top line on it says 270, so it probably holds between 290 and 300 milliliters, I would imagine, because it's filled further than the 270 mark. But this here, this lamb I've got next to me here takes it very easily. And once they start getting larger, when they're younger, they won't do the entire thing. In their first 2 weeks, they'll do most of it, but they won't get it all the way down. And you feed them more often the younger they are in smaller amounts. Once they're larger, we go to a bottle about twice this size, and it also goes to less and less feedings. So we'll take, and what I've started doing is I'll actually go and get high-fat, whipping cream at 33% or 36%, whatever I can find, and it saves me a couple dollars. And each one of these jugs lasts me about a week. And what I do, I take an empty milk jug, just your 4-liter milk jug, and I'll empty my high-fat whipping cream into it, and then I fill it to the brim. So that works out to giving us, what was that? That was 33 divided by 4, right? It's more than 3%. I think it worked out to 8%. Even on the low side, if it was 6%, that's still twice. And it's not an exact science because they're 946 milliliters instead of 4 liters, right? So 946 mils at X rate diluted to, and it's going to be more than 4 liters because I fill it right to the brim. It's not an exact science. So no matter what, I'm getting a higher fat with doing what I'm doing now, and that's what I did this last lamb on, and I'm really happy with the way he turned out. Not only did I push him further on the weaning, so when I knew he was ready to wean, there was a day I went out there to feed him on the bottle, and he was getting hay at the same time, and he drank maybe a quarter of the bottle and stopped. That was it. But he was full because he had eaten a bunch of hay throughout the day. And that's when I knew we were getting close and we were going to be. And that wasn't even at 10 weeks. That was probably around the 8-week mark. And from that point on, I only did 2 or 3 bottles a day, which was super easy. I one in the morning, one during my lunch hour, and then one at the end of the day. When they're younger, a little more attention. But it's one of these things. It's just a quick tip that nobody ever really talked about when we first went into it. You just cow's milk. It's like, I think it was $4.40 or $4.60 for the high fat whipping cream, diluted into an old milk jug, and that lasts me about a week on one of these lamps. Given it does go up a little bit once they start drinking like the higher quantities. Like probably around that 4 to 6 week mark, they probably start really wanting to eat more. At least this last lamb we did because in the previous ones we weaned them around there, right? And that's probably when they do the big boom and growing. And this last one we did was a Dorper cross painted desert, and the Dorper they're great. They're fantastic sheep. The painted desert's the exact opposite of the spectrum. It's kind of a waste of feed. I've got a painted desert Catadine ewe up with in my flock, and she's just these little lollipop legs. It's just bone and then shoulder. It's hilarious. It's a completely different built animal than something like your Dorper crosses, your Suffolks, your Chevrolettes. It's a different animal. And he ended up being really good. At 11 weeks, he's almost as tall as our purebred Catadine bottle babes that we did last year. And a large part of that's going to be literally weaning them as early as we did. And that was under advice, not having any real knowledge about it. But that also, I mean, you can take what I'm saying and you can feel better about weaning them early if you decide to, because the guys we got up there, they're super healthy. They're happy. And it's like, I don't have any pushy issues with those guys. And I've heard a lot about, like, if you leave a bottle ram lamb, as a ram, and you want to use them, apparently they don't have much of a boundary. Like, they just invade your personal space, and they're not so pleasant about it. But we've had super good luck with it. So, and maybe that's part of it. Weaning them early, maybe that's a large part of it. Doesn't get as accustomed to being around people as, like, say, the 11-week-old one. And the 11-week-old one, I'm going to, like, he is 100, or now he's older than that. Now he's, like, 14 weeks. But he's way more in my personal space. I go in there and I'll go check in on hooves, or I'll go in just giving treats, right? Being social with my animals, making sure that I can go in there and handle them, right? Because the last thing I want is to have a lambing season and the animal won't let you anywhere near it. How do you help if it's running away from you with half a lamb sticking out of the back end of it, right? It's not going to work. That's a very much so hypothetical. I've got no idea. But yeah, it's one of those, he'll come up to you and he'll just, like, he'll stand on your leg and be, like, pawing at your ribs. And it's, oh well, it is what it is. But, anyways, you can save yourself a few bucks. And the way I figured it, instead of buying a bag of milk replacer, which looked like it was anywhere from $180 to $200, just run yourself a few jugs, or a jug a week at $4.50, let's say, or even if we said $5, at $5 a week basically to feed one of these things. And it's super simple. It takes up, like, it's faster on your time. You don't have to heat up the water, you don't have to do the mixing and then put it in the bottle. You just put it in the bottle, throw it in the nuke for, in my case, this bottle here is perfect, basically perfect at a minute 30. Yeah, it makes sense. It just works. And it's one of those things, like, I went and I was doing some research on it, and I don't think I've seen any YouTube videos about this either. But doing research, Google tells you not to do this, and I haven't lost a lamb yet, and they all do this. Even this last guy here, he seems so small. We bought him at 2 weeks for $50. He seems so small on the milk replacer, and he's just gaining so fast on this stuff. And maybe it's the fact that I'm doing the more higher fat milk now, or like a milk dilution. Maybe that's part of it. But yeah, it's wild. It's like I said, nobody talked about it. So figured I'd put that out there, spread out the information. I mean, I thought it was pretty good advice once I saw the way it worked. So I mean, just pass it along, and yeah. Anyways, happy hobby farming.